Chapter 13, Leaving a Lasting Legacy, Crafting a Future of Impactful Leadership. Introduction, The Weight and Wonder of Legacy. Leadership is not measured solely by the number of projects completed or the revenue generated. It is measured by the impact that settles into the fabric of an organization and the community long after the day tasks have ended. In this chapter, we explore the profound idea of legacy, what it means to lead in a way that transcends immediate outcomes and creates an enduring influence on people, processes, and values. Over the course of my journey as a leader, I have come to embrace that every decision, every failure, and every triumph is part of a larger narrative that can inspire future leaders to build upon our collective experiences. Legacy is multifaceted. It is the ethical standard that continues to inform decisions, the culture of learning, adaptation, and empathy that transforms challenges into opportunities, and, above all, the enduring human connections that continue long after the formal responsibilities of leadership have faded into memory. As we examine the nuances of creating a lasting legacy, I invite you to reflect deeply on your own leadership and consider what you wish to be remembered for. The Evolution of Leadership, a Journey Beyond Success. Our conversation on leadership began with foundational concepts, integrity, empowerment, navigating change, and has evolved into a more profound understanding of what it means to lead with purpose. Over the previous chapters, we discussed the importance of setting a clear vision, fostering an empowering culture, and adapting to change with courage and resolve. Now, as we step into the realm of legacy building, the focus shifts from short-term wins to the long-term impact of our actions. At the heart of legacy building is the idea that leadership is less about the individual and more about creating a ripple that affects everyone around you. Consider the great leaders of our time. They have not only built successful organizations, but have also mentored their successors, nurtured a culture of trust and accountability, and woven together narratives that inspire others to strive for excellence. Their stories remind us that leadership is a continuum, a living, evolving process that transcends generations. Part 1. The Philosophy of Long-Term Impact. A leader builds a legacy by championing values that stand the test of time. In this section, I will explain the philosophical underpinnings of long-term impact. An understanding of legacy begins with self-awareness and honest appraisal of one's values, strengths, and shortcomings. What do you truly stand for? What principles guide your decisions? These are not questions to be answered in haste, but questions that require ongoing reflection and introspection. I recall the early days of my career when leadership was primarily about achieving immediate objectives. The pressure to meet quarterly targets or to complete high-profile projects often resulted in quick decisions that overlooked ethical considerations or long-term ramifications. Over time, I learned that authentic leadership is not about expedience, it is about steadfast adherence to values, leaving a lasting legacy, crafting a future of impactful leadership, even when the short-term consequences seem discouraging. This lesson was pivotal in my transition from a reactive mindset to one of deliberate, future-oriented thinking. Legacy is also about consistency. The actions we take today should serve as a beacon for future decision-making. A consistent approach to leadership fosters trust and builds an organizational culture that can withstand the inevitable storms of change. For instance, a leader who consistently shows empathy, transparency, and ethical integrity gradually influences an entire organization to adopt those same virtues. Over time, these virtues become ingrained in the company's DNA, creating an environment that nurtures innovation and resilience. Another dimension of legacy is the way you handle failures. In leadership, mistakes are inevitable. How you address these moments of vulnerability is critical. Embracing failure as a learning opportunity rather than a setback is a cornerstone of sustained leadership. When you openly acknowledge missteps analyze what went wrong, and commit to doing better next time, you model humility and continuous improvement. This transparency not only deepens the trust between you and your team, but it also inspires others to take risks, learn from errors, and pursue excellence without the paralyzing fear of failure. Part 2. Crafting a vision that outlives you. A powerful vision is the cornerstone of any lasting legacy. It is the North Star that guides both your personal journey and the trajectory of your organization. In this section, we delve into the process of crafting a vision that endures beyond your tenure. The journey to a visionary leadership approach begins with understanding that your vision must be both aspirational and practical. It should ignite passion, challenge the status quo, and serve as a collective goal for your team. When I first set out to articulate my vision as a leader, I spent countless hours in solitude, reflecting on my core values, experiences, and the kind of world I wanted to help create. I realized that a vision is not simply a statement plastered on a wall. It is a call to action, a set of standards for behavior, and a way of thinking that must be woven into the everyday practices of an organization. To create a vision that outlives you, it must be deeply ingrained in the organization's culture. This means involving your team in its formation. When employees contribute to shaping the vision, they invest a part of themselves in it. They become stakeholders who are motivated not merely by directives, but by a shared sense of purpose. This collaborative process not only generates buy-in, but also ensures that the vision is robust and adaptable to future challenges. A visionary leader must also be a storyteller. Narratives have the power to transcend time. Through storytelling, you can communicate your vision in a way that resonates emotionally and intellectually with your audience. I have often used narratives, a story of overcoming adversity, a transformational journey, or an anecdote from my own experiences to help others see the bigger picture. These stories serve as both inspiration and guidance, helping to cement the vision into the consciousness of your organization. The next step in building a lasting vision involves setting clear, measurable goals that serve as milestones on the journey to fulfilling that vision. Goals provide direction and a means to evaluate, leaving a lasting legacy, crafting a future of impactful leadership, progress, while also ensuring that the vision does not remain an abstract ideal. Establishing a roadmap with periodic assessments allows you to recalibrate as necessary and ensures that the legacy you build remains relevant and dynamic over time. Part 3. Empowering the next generation of leaders. A lasting legacy is born out of the success of those who follow in your footsteps. In this part of the chapter, we discuss the importance of nurturing the next generation of leaders and the strategies for effective mentorship. Leadership is contagious. The lessons you impart, both directly and indirectly, ripple outwards, influencing future leaders and impacting the organization as a whole. Mentorship is a critical component of legacy building. I vividly remember the mentors who shaped my early career, individuals who not only provided guidance and wisdom, but also modeled a commitment to lifelong learning and ethical conduct. Their influence propelled me to new heights, and I have since dedicated myself to paying it forward. When you invest in someone else's journey, you are investing in the future strength and resilience of your organization. Building the capacity for future leadership involves creating structured mentorship programs as well as encouraging informal leadership development. It is important to identify potential in your team early on and provide them with opportunities to challenge themselves. One effective strategy I have adopted is to rotate leadership roles on projects. Allowing emerging leaders the chance to lead a team on a smaller scale gives them invaluable experience while instilling confidence. Additionally, creating platforms for constructive feedback and fostering an environment where questions and curiosity are welcomed can transform hesitant employees into dynamic problem solvers. A key aspect of preparing future leaders is also to be transparent about the challenges you face. Sharing not only your successes, but also your failures demystify the leadership process. When you're honest about the obstacles and uncertainties inherent in any endeavor, you set realistic expectations and empower others to persevere through adversity. The vulnerabilities you share become lessons in resilience and adaptability. Remember, the strength of a legacy lies in its authenticity, not in an unattainable ideal of infallibility. It is equally important to redefine the hierarchy inherent in most organizational structures. True empowerment does not come from affirming a top-down hierarchy, but from recognizing the potential in people at every level. Active delegation of responsibility, where team members are trusted with decisions beyond their immediate tasks, builds leadership capacity organically. This approach fosters a culture where innovative thinking and independent problem solving are not only encouraged but expected. In time, such an environment cultivates leaders who are both collaborative and capable of rigorous, independent thought. Part culture as the bedrock of legacy. The culture of an organization can either bolster or undermine your efforts to build a lasting legacy. A positive, resilient, and adaptive culture is the fertile ground from which innovative ideas grow. In this section, we examine the critical components of organizational culture and how you as a leader can shape it to reflect your vision and values. Leaving a lasting legacy, crafting a future of impactful leadership. Culture is formed through repeated interactions, shared anecdotes, rituals, and symbols. It is less about formal policies and more about the lived experiences of every team member. Over the years, I have witnessed organizational transformations where a shift from a rigid top-down culture to one of open communication and shared decision-making made all the difference. To forge a lasting legacy, you must prioritize culture as a top management imperative. A culture built on trust, respect, and continuous improvement does not rely on coercion or fear. Instead, it thrives in an atmosphere where every team member feels safe to express their opinions, innovate, and learn from mistakes. This kind of environment is cultivated through leadership, transparency, and accountability. Make a habit of celebrating successes, however small, and use failures as opportunities for learning rather than as grounds for blame. Over time, this approach not only enhances productivity, but also nurtures loyalty and commitment among employees. Leaders can solidify this culture by embedding core values into every aspect of the organization, from hiring practices and training programs to performance evaluation and reward systems. When employees see that the organizational values are not just words on paper but lived principles, they are more likely to embrace them and pass them on to future colleagues. Moreover, culture is sustained through storytelling. Take time to share the history of your organization, its challenges, milestones, and transformative moments. By weaving these narratives into the fabric of daily routines, you reinforce the idea that every person is part of a larger, ongoing journey. This shared sense of history and destiny is what ultimately creates a legacy that transcends any single leader. Part V, the role of innovation and adaptability in a lasting legacy. A leader's legacy is not static. It evolves as the world changes and as new challenges and opportunities emerge. In this part of the chapter, we explore the dynamic interplay between maintaining core values and championing innovation. After all, a legacy built on rigid adherence to outdated practices cannot flourish in a setting of constant change. Innovation is often seen as the domain of startups and tech companies, but it is equally essential in established organizations. Successful legacy leaders understand that the status quo is not immune to disruption. They foster a culture where creative thinking and experimentation are not just allowed but actively encouraged. I recall instances when out-of-the-box ideas emerged from unexpected corners of my organizations, ideas that eventually shaped our new business strategies and operational approaches. Embracing innovation starts with challenging long-held assumptions. It means asking difficult questions such as, is this the best way to do things? Or how might we solve this problem differently? When you create a system where questioning and challenging the norm is encouraged, you open the door for breakthrough innovations that can redefine your organization's future. This approach requires humility, a willingness to accept that the conventional ways of doing things are not always optimal, and a commitment to testing and learning from new approaches. Adaptability, in many ways, is the bridge between innovation and legacy. You must balance the preservation of core values with the need to evolve continuously. One effective method is to leaving a lasting legacy, crafting a future of impactful leadership. Institutionalize feedback loops within your organization. Regular review sessions, brainstorming forums, and innovation challenges can help you identify what is working and what needs adjustment. These practices not only keep the organization agile, but also signal to every team member that change is not a threat but an opportunity for reinvention. Innovation and adaptability also play a crucial role in crisis management, a true test of leadership. History shows that the ability to pivot in response to unforeseen challenges often distinguishes the most enduring legacies from the ephemeral successes of the moment. Every crisis, whether technological, financial, or social, presents an opportunity to re-examine established practices and to chart a new course. By facing these challenges head-on and emerging stronger, you not only demonstrate leadership resilience, but also solidify your legacy as someone who could transform adversity into advantage. Part 6: Ethical Leadership and Social Responsibility. In today's interconnected world, the legacy left by a leader extends far beyond the confines of the boardroom. It encompasses ethical decisions made under pressure, acts of social responsibility, and the overall influence on the community. In this section, we explore how ethical leadership and societal engagement become vital aspects of a lasting legacy. Ethics in leadership is not about adhering strictly to a set of rules. It is about cultivating a moral compass that guides every decision, especially when the right choice is not the easiest one. Throughout my career, I encountered situations where ethical dilemmas forced me to choose between short-term benefits and long-term integrity. Choosing to prioritize integrity over expediency is often difficult, but it is these moments that define your leadership legacy. When you lead by example in ethical decision-making, you not only inspire trust within your organization, but also set a standard for responsible conduct that resonates with stakeholders and the broader community. Social responsibility likewise plays an integral role in legacy building. A leader's actions have a profound impact on society, whether through corporate social responsibility initiatives, community engagement, or environmental stewardship. By actively contributing to the well-being of the communities in which you operate, you create a legacy of compassion and accountability. I have often partnered with local organizations and encouraged my teams to get involved in volunteer work. These endeavors, while seemingly small in the day-to-day operations, accumulate to create an indelible mark that reflects the values of your leadership. Moreover, ethical leadership requires transparency, openness about decisions, motivations, and the challenges you face. When you communicate honestly with your team and the public, you demystify the complexities of leadership and build trust that endures long after any individual position is vacated. This trust, once established, acts as the cornerstone of your legacy, influencing everything from public perception to the internal morale of your organization. Part 7: Personal Reflection and the Emotional Landscape of Leadership. As we near the culmination of our discussion on legacy, it is important to turn inward and examine the personal dimensions of leadership. Leadership is an emotional journey replete with leaving a lasting legacy, crafting a future of impactful leadership, moments of profound joy, crushing disappointment, and everything in between. The legacy you leave behind is not only about the objectives achieved and the systems built, it is about the human connections forged along the way. My own journey has been marked by moments of intense emotional vulnerability. I have experienced the weight of solitary decisions, the pressure of unforeseen setbacks, and also the radiant joy of shared success. In these moments, I learned that leadership is as much about emotional intelligence as it is about strategic planning. The ability to empathize with your team, to understand their fears and hopes, and to support them in times of uncertainty forms the emotional backbone of a lasting legacy. Emotional resilience in leadership is not innate. It is cultivated over time through reflection, mentorship, and sometimes painful personal experiences. I found that journaling and candid discussions with trusted colleagues help me process difficult feelings and emerge with clearer purpose. I encourage you, as a leader, to invest time in self-reflection. Consider what moments of vulnerability have taught you about your own strengths and limitations. A leader who embraces both the light and shadow of their personality is one who leaves behind a richly textured legacy. A legacy that acknowledges the full spectrum of human emotion. Another essential aspect of personal reflection is the recognition of your own influence on others. Every decision you make, every word you speak, ripples outward, affecting the lives of team members, partners, and even clients. Recognizing this weight of responsibility can be daunting. However, it also serves as a powerful motivator to engage in thoughtful, principled leadership. Remind yourself that the hard decisions you make today build the framework for a better tomorrow, not only for yourself, but for those who will follow in your footsteps. Part 8. Integrating lessons and envisioning the future. A legacy is not a static monument, it is a living entity that continues to evolve. In this section, we integrate the many lessons gleaned from years of leadership and begin to envision what the future holds. What strategies, values, and innovations will underlie the next chapter of organizational evolution? How can you ensure that your contributions continue to inspire generations to come? We live in an age defined by rapid change, where emerging technologies, global connectivity, and shifting social paradigms constantly redefine the landscape of leadership. To ensure that your legacy remains relevant, it is essential to remain open-minded and adaptable. Look at the innovations and trends that are shaping your industry. Embrace those that align with your values, and be willing to challenge yourself and your team to explore new horizons. A forward-looking leader invests in research, dialogue, and experimentation. Consider organizing interdisciplinary brainstorming sessions, collaborating with experts from various fields, or even engaging in direct partnerships with academic institutions. Through these channels, you can remain at the forefront of new ideas and ensure that your organization is not only responsive to current trends, but also proactive in setting them. It is also important to document your journey, not merely as a memoir of achievements, but as a curated record of lessons learned, challenges faced, and philosophies developed along the way. I have found that writing extensively about my experiences, whether leaving a lasting legacy, crafting a future of impactful leadership, in internal reports or public writings, serves as both a personal catharsis and a legacy document that future leaders can learn from. Documenting your journey is more than self-reflection. It is an act of stewardship that transfers wisdom from one generation to the next. Furthermore, envisioning the future also means preparing for your own eventual departure from active leadership. Succession planning becomes a critical exercise in ensuring that the legacy you build is sustainable. Identify individuals within your organization who embody your values and demonstrate a will to innovate and nurture others. Mentor them rigorously and gradually hand over responsibilities in a manner that continues to honor your leadership principles. This will help ensure that even when you are no longer at the helm, the organization will continue to thrive under a shared, evolving vision. Part 9, Building Resilient Networks and Collaborative Ecosystems. No leader is an island. The networks you build and the relationships you nurture form another essential pillar of your legacy. This section is devoted to understanding the importance of building resilient networks, both within your organization and externally, that can support the shared vision and navigate the uncertainties of the future. Throughout my career, I have witnessed firsthand the potential of collaborative ecosystems to transform organizations. Whether it is through cross-departmental task forces, partnerships with other companies, or alliances with community organizations, building networks creates a dynamic support system that reinforces your leadership strategy. Such networks can provide access to diverse perspectives, new technologies, and unexpected opportunities. They serve as a counterbalance to the isolation that can sometimes accompany high-level leadership. By actively engaging in mentorship, networking events, and collaborative projects, you create an environment where knowledge circulates freely. These connections are especially critical during times of crisis, when the collective wisdom of a tightly knit network can pave the way for recovery and reinvention. To build these networks, invest time in listening, sharing, and establishing trust-based relationships. The quality of your network is directly proportional to the lasting impact of your leadership. Consider also the power of social media and professional platforms in today's digital age. These tools can amplify your message, extend your influence, and connect you with emerging leaders and innovators across the globe. When used thoughtfully and authentically, digital networks serve as modern-day assemblies of wisdom, an ongoing forum for the exchange of ideas, support, and collaboration. Part X, the enduring impact of a leader's influence. As we approach the concluding reflections of this chapter, it is vital to consider what the true impact of a leader's influence looks like over time. A legacy is realized not just in policies or profit margins, but in the subtle ways that people's lives are changed. It is seen in the stories of former team members who have grown into impactful leaders, in the continued adherence to a set of ethical values, and in the resilience of an organization that, long after you have stepped aside, continues to innovate and inspire. Leaving a lasting legacy, crafting a future of impactful leadership. I have received messages throughout my career from colleagues and mentees who attribute their successes to a single conversation, a shared piece of advice, or an example I set during turbulent times. These stories are the living evidence that leadership is a gift that flourishes when passed on. Every time you choose to invest in another person's potential, you sow seeds that will grow and multiply across generations. The enduring impact of your influence is cumulative. It is found in the operational policies that outlast shifting management, in the inspiring speeches that motivate during moments of crisis, and in the individual memories of those who witnessed your commitment to ethical leadership. This influence is something that transcends your professional accomplishments and touches the hearts and minds of those who worked by your side. Reflect on the unwritten stories that define your journey. Perhaps there was a moment when a brief word of encouragement changed the trajectory of someone's career, or a time when your transparent admission of a mistake fostered a culture of openness. These moments of genuine human connection are the building blocks of a legacy that will not fade with time. They remind us that leadership is fundamentally about people, about relationships, and about sharing the human experience in all its complexity. Part 11. Sustaining the Legacy, Strategies for Ongoing Reflection and Growth. A legacy is not a static artifact. It is a process that must be maintained, evaluated, and nurtured over time. Even long after you have created the conditions for success, the work of sustaining that legacy continues. In this final section of our in-depth discussion, we explore strategies for ongoing reflection, re-evaluation, and evolution, ensuring that your legacy remains relevant and dynamic. One effective strategy is the establishment of leadership forums within your organization, venues where past leaders, current managers, and emerging talent can come together to discuss challenges, share successes, and strategize for the future. These forums provide a continuous feedback loop and functions as a collective memory bank that preserves core values and shared experiences. They serve as living institutions of the legacy that, even in your absence, keep the spirit of your leadership vibrant. Another sustainable practice is to engage in periodic self-evaluation and to document your evolving perspectives on leadership. Write journals, host reflection sessions, or even collaborate on books and articles that not only record successes but also candidly explore failures and setbacks. This ongoing documentation reinforces the idea that growth is a continuous process and that every challenge is an opportunity to refine your approach. Moreover, sustain the legacy by investing in lifelong learning, not only your own but that of your organization. Encourage ongoing professional development initiatives and create a culture that values continuous improvement. When your organization remains committed to learning and staying ahead of the curve, the vision you established does not become obsolete. It evolves according to new knowledge and emerging trends. Lastly, always be mindful of the macro changes in the world. Geopolitical shifts, technological evolution, and societal transformation continuously redefine what effective leadership means. To ensure your legacy remains impactful, engage with leaving a lasting legacy, crafting a future of impactful leadership, thought leaders and visionaries outside your immediate industry. Challenge your own assumptions regularly. The willingness to adapt and recalibrate is, ironically, one of the most enduring aspects of a timeless legacy. Conclusion: an invitation to create influence and inspire. As we bring this chapter to a close, and indeed our journey through is not reserved for a select few. It is a calling that arises in everyday choices, in the quiet acts of kindness and bold strokes of innovation. Your legacy is built from these moments. It is the product of daily decisions, ethical considerations, and the commitment to inspire others. Take a moment to envision the legacy you wish to leave behind. Reflect on the values that are non-negotiable in your leadership, the transformative strategies you have employed, and the relationships you have built along the way. Recognize that every day offers a fresh opportunity to influence, to mentor, and to drive positive change. The enduring legacy of your leadership lies not merely in the tangible outcomes you achieve, but in the intangible, lasting impact on hearts, minds, and futures. As you step forward, remember this: leadership is a legacy waiting to be written. It is the narrative of every courageous decision, every empathetic conversation, and every innovative idea that lights the way for others. May you always strive to leave behind a legacy defined by compassion, resilience, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. Chapter summary: legacy in leadership is the synthesis of every decision, challenge, and connection made along your journey. In this chapter, we explored the multifaceted nature of legacy, from crafting a timeless vision and fostering a resilient organizational culture to empowering future generations and embracing ethical responsibility. Key insights include the need for consistency in values, the power of transparent communication, the importance of mentorship, and the dynamic interplay between innovation and adaptability. True leadership legacy is not measured solely by immediate results, but by the enduring impact your principles have on individuals, teams, and communities, ensuring that long after you have passed the torch, your commitment to excellence and ethical decision-making continues to inspire and guide the leaders of tomorrow. Leaving a lasting legacy, crafting a future of impactful leadership. Task for readers: reflect deeply on your leadership journey and envision the legacy you aspire to create. On one page, outline your personal commitment to legacy building. In your reflection, be sure to address the following: the core values you want to be known for, and how they influence your daily decisions. Strategies you will implement to mentor and empower emerging leaders in your organization. Concrete examples of how you will integrate innovation and adaptability into your long-term vision. The ways in which you plan to document and share your journey so that your lessons and experiences inspire future generations. This exercise is designed to challenge you to think about leadership beyond the immediate horizon. By reflecting on your legacy, you are not only shaping your future as a leader, you are also setting a course that others will one day follow. Final reflections. As we conclude this comprehensive exploration of leaving a lasting legacy in my leadership responsibilities, remember that each chapter in this book has been a stepping stone toward understanding the true nature of leadership. From empowering teams and navigating change to crafting a meaningful legacy, the journey is as much about inner growth as it is about tangible impact. Whether you are stepping into a leadership role for the first time or you have years of experience behind you, this final chapter serves as both a summation of what has been learned and a springboard for future leadership endeavors. Leadership, when practiced with courage, humility, and vision, leaves behind an indelible mark. It creates networks and cultures that outlive its originator and influences countless lives along the way. I encourage you to revisit the ideas presented here regularly, to refine your vision, and to remain steadfast in your commitment to ethical, people-centered leadership. Your legacy can be a lasting beacon, a guidepost for future leaders navigating an ever-changing world. In this shared journey of leadership, each step you take contributes to a legacy that is greater than the sum of its parts, a legacy that will continue to shape the future long after today's decisions have become history. Great leaders embrace diversity, knowing that strength lies in understanding and valuing different perspectives. Cultural sensitivity is not just a skill. It's a mindset that fosters unity in a globalized world. Global leadership requires the humility to learn from others and the courage to lead with inclusivity. A culturally sensitive leader builds bridges, not barriers, and unites people across differences. The world needs leaders who can think globally, act locally, and respect universally. Embracing the future, charting a bold new course for leadership,